driven past many times, but first time I've been on campus, so it's just amazing actually to see the quality of the facilities on site. I know a lot about the college. It's one of our best, and I'm very, very proud of it. And actually for me, there's something of a bit of a sentimental journey for me this morning, because actually this is where it all began for me. I don't know if you know this, but my very, very first job out of university was in Middleton. I was a reporter for the Middleton Guardian. Unpaid, I stress to add there. So I know the area well. I remember it well, and the experience of doing that, travelling from where I was in the Lee area over here every day, trying to fund that and try to get myself established on the work ladder out of university. You know, those kind of experiences never leave you, do they? You know, you carry that with you for the rest of your life. And to be honest with you, it does inform what I'm trying to do as mayor. I think 30 plus years on from when I was doing what I was doing, it's got harder, a lot harder for young people to make their way in the world. It wasn't easy then, but it's tougher now, no doubt about it. And I want to do what I can to change that. And actually to do something that, in my view, Westminster education policy has never achieved, and that is to create parity between academic and technical education. For me, that has got to be right, that we value all young people equally, we value all skills equally, and we do something to make young people who want technical qualifications to lift their self-esteem and their morale, and that matters massively to me, and it's what I'm trying to do as mayor. So for me, I think, as Liz was just saying, this is the right conversation to be having at the right time. The skills issue has always been a sort of poor relation in the Westminster and Whitehall world, as you probably know. I mean, you can feel it if you work in FE. I mean, you know that's the way it's often treated. But out in the real world, for everyone else, it's now at the top of the list, with the challenges that the country faces as we look to a more uncertain future. However people voted, it is a more uncertain future. We are going to have to do a lot better when it comes to training the next generation. We can't do it in the way that we've done it in the past, because it won't work. And if we try that, then our economy will suffer, not just here in the borough, Rochdale, but across Greater Manchester as well. So the time has come to do something different, and obviously with devolution, we've got the chance to do something better than other places can do, to put Greater Manchester in a stronger position to face the future. And I'm trying to do that, even though I don't have all of the levers that I would like. We are about to get devolved control of the adult education budget from April next year, so post-19. But I would say, and I don't know how Derek and the college feel about this, I would say the case is clear, it seems to me, for post-16 to be devolved fully to Greater Manchester. We're being asked by the government to develop a local industrial strategy. So for the first time, we're being asked to agree with them a plan for our own economy here in Greater Manchester. And actually it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do, to have a specific plan for what we want to do here in Greater Manchester to build our economy. And you can expect to see advanced manufacturing, materials, health innovation, green technology featuring very prominently in that plan when we agree it by March next year. But the point I keep making back to the government is you will not have a successful local industrial strategy unless there is a strong local skills strategy to underpin it. If we're going to identify these key sectors for the future to deliver the prosperity that we want to see, they won't succeed unless there is a talent pipeline from our schools and colleges into those new and emerging sectors. And that means we need more ability to work with our excellent colleges like this one to build that system, and actually to send a clearer message to young people in secondary school about the legitimate hopes they may have in terms of what industries they may work in the future. I don't know how you feel, but I don't think we're doing anything like a good enough job in giving young people in Greater Manchester, teenagers, that clarity about what might be there for them at the end of school. It's fine if you're on the university route. Oh, you get it very much laid out for you. It's all very clear. But if you're looking for an apprenticeship or for technical qualifications, it's a kind of case of, oh, well, you have to find your own way. And I think the message is increasingly given out that that's some kind of second-class route. Well, it's not in my mind, and I'm determined to make sure it's not for anyone here growing up in Greater Manchester. So my big plan to do something about all of that is to bring forward what you may have heard me talk about before, which is a UCAS-style system for apprenticeships in Greater Manchester. I want a system that gives any young person growing up here the ability to go online and see all of the apprenticeships that are available, not just in this borough, but across Greater Manchester. I want to break the culture, actually, where young people just think they have to live and work locally, that they can't aspire to work further afield. I don't think they have that clear line of sight into the modern economy. I think often the advice they get from their teachers and sometimes their parents can be quite out of date. I don't think they know the full range of what's available in the modern economy just a few miles from where we're sitting today. And we've got to connect young people with that opportunity. And that's what our UCAS style system is intended to do. The combined authority is about to go out to tender for this system. And if you just think about it for a moment, the employers in the room, it will give you an opportunity to lay out what you have in terms of the opportunities, but also the qualifications you would like young people to have if they were to then apply for those opportunities through this system. So it would give you, in my view, as employers, more ability to drive the education system than you currently have. You would be able to specify the courses that you think are important, as opposed to what the Department for Education thinks are important through the English Baccalaureate. And I think that would then better connect what you can offer with the young people coming through the system. I know, given my own past coming to this borough to work in my first job, how much travel stands in the way, travel costs. So alongside this system, it's still my intention to bring through a free bus pass for 16 to 18-year-olds in Greater Manchester. I want every young person growing up here to have hope and confidence that they can get to something beyond secondary school, that there is an opportunity that they can get to and that they can get on in life. So that's what we're trying to do, to put a system out there that shows people the opportunities and then connects people to those opportunities and gives them the hope that they can succeed. And I want very much to work with all of you to see if we can make this system work. And of course, we want to work with all of our colleges as key players as part of that. So I'll finish off on that point really in just saying you couldn't be having a more important or more topical conversation. We want to lay out some of this thinking in our local industrial strategy. So whether the government has invited me to or not, I'm going to be making sure that when we publish the Greater Manchester Local Industrial Strategy next year, it has these proposals for skills at the heart of it, so that we can show how we are going to bring through the workforce to work in the sectors where we think we can be strong in the future. But everything you can discuss today can feed in to that strategy. If you think there are further things that we need to think about that we're not thinking about, then you need to tell us about that. We're not just thinking about apprenticeships. We want, through Bridge GM, which is a system that may be known to you, the system that we're using to link businesses with young people, we want to develop a work shadowing scheme. So recognising that the old work experience doesn't work in the way that it probably never did work particularly well, we want to develop a new way of connecting young people to the worlds that they might aspire to work in. So perhaps they can come and shadow Liz for a couple of days, or me, or any of you, so that we open up the world of work to them and we allow them to see it and feel a world that currently many of them may feel is not for them. That's what we want to do here. We want to break down all of those barriers. And I know I feel we will be getting where we want to be when young people growing up in this borough have hope that there's something there for them at the end of school, but also have confidence when they look on the skyline and they see city centre Manchester kind of physically almost rising up with the building that goes on there, that they believe that that's where they can work too, and that isn't a world away from them that's not for them. That's when we'll be really getting somewhere, and I want to build a skills system that speaks to that and works for everybody. Businesses, colleges, but most importantly, the young people themselves. So hope some of that means something to all of you. Please use today to feed into it, but at the end of the day, we're going to need you to work with it, because the more people that get behind this vision, the more likely it is to work. So thanks very much indeed for listening, and as Liz said, have a great conference today.
Okay, to ask 10 minutes for questions, anything that came up in your discussions? Stunned silence, there must be some questions. Could you just introduce yourself?
Oh yes, my name's Kerry Travers. I work for a structural steel company called William Hare. We're based in Bury. Really interested to hear about the sort of UCAS style system for apprenticeships. But currently, there already is a government website that I suppose claims to do that, but it's a national one.
Yeah.
How would you see the Greater Manchester one being different from that? Because not everybody at the minute advertises on there. You still have to go. If a parent speaks to me or a member of staff at work, I still have to give them 10 different places to go to look for apprenticeships, higher degree apprenticeships. It is a minefield. So how would the UCAS Greater Manchester one potentially be different?
Yeah. Well, thanks for bailing me out with the question there, Kerry. It would be far too embarrassing if nobody had asked one. And there are things out there that do the same thing, that do this kind of matching. And you're right, there was one, I think UCAS actually had one, I think, called UCAS Progress, I think, although somebody was telling me that they've recently kind of moved away from it. So there are different types of this same idea out there. We think, though, it's better to build one that's right for us, that has a very strong Greater Manchester identity, that everybody uses, and then that we as a combined authority, working with Chris and the Chamber, kind of encourage everybody to get behind and say, look, let's get all of our schools using it, let's get all of our employers using it, so it becomes the place that has the kind of the critical mass, if you like, and the energy around it. And does the job. Our view of it, we've looked at all of the things that are out there, none of them quite do what we want. We want a system that gives people information, but more than that, allows them to apply through that system. So that's what we're trying to build, a simple, clear system that has a Greater Manchester identity, and then crucially it has a kind of campaign around it that encourages everyone to use it, because the more everyone then uses it, the more traction it will have. Our take on it is that none of them quite have the profile that they need, and actually none of them fully do what we want it to do. So you will see very soon that we'll go out to tender with our proposals, and we just think by localising it more, and obviously by kind of being able to plug the colleges and the schools into it more, it will then stand much greater chance of success.
Could I make a suggestion then?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I might as well while I'm
No,
here.
do, yeah.
At the moment, I as an employer can't directly advertise any of my apprenticeship vacancies on any of these websites. I have to go through the training provider that I'm working with.
Yeah.
So that's something that I would love to be able to do, that I can actually advertise and use this kind of system.
Yeah.
So if you could bear that in mind when you tender out.
I will. I personally see no reason why not, because, as I say, I think it should be companies themselves selling themselves, but also just giving a clear explanation of why they're a great place to work. So let the young people, don't filter it, let them judge for themselves, and let them see the breadth of what's out there in the modern economy. So absolutely, I would want it to be direct access for employees.
Oh. Okay, question at the back.
Good morning, Andy. Thank you for coming.
Morning.
My name's Edward Carpenter. We're working on an initiative called Rochdale Strong Together. Rochdale's economy across Greater Manchester is one of the weakest in Greater Manchester. And obviously we want to be setting up skills for the future economy, perhaps 30 years' time. Rochdale needs its new cotton that's going to bring high-skilled jobs, not just more low-skilled jobs that aren't going to increase the local economy, potentially digital, advanced manufacturing. Have you got any thoughts about what role that might be for Rochdale, what its new cotton might be in the future?
It could be any of those things that you just mentioned. Green energy, it's going to have to be a big part of our future. So, for those who don't know, we're having to debate at the moment, alongside the local industrial strategy, a clean air plan. So, there are going to be changes in the coming years because we have to. We've no choice. But it's still the right thing to do to our transport system. And we've just debated, the leaders and myself this week, a plan to increase the supply of renewable energy. Because if we're going to have more electric vehicles on the roads, where's that going to come from? So it is going to be a time of opportunity, and the boroughs that are ready to see that opportunity and invest in it are the ones that will succeed. I think the point of a local industrial strategy is actually, what I'm finding is that it's a really interesting process to go through, because it can't be a process about PR or wish lists or anything like that. It has to be a kind of a process of honesty and soul searching, because you have to say, well, what can we actually be strong in the future? You know, there's no point in saying, oh, we'd love to be in this, that and the other, if it's just not a reality because of the industrial base that we've got. But what we will get to, I think, is about 4 or 5 sectors that are genuine strengths of Greater Manchester. You mentioned a couple: materials, advanced manufacturing, health innovation, no question. Why? We're the only place in England that has health devolution. So we're the only place that can link health to housing in a meaningful way. Therefore, we're the only place that could start to champion new visions of assisted living in the home using digital technology. So health innovation, definitely. You expect to see that feature very, very prominently in the local industrial strategy. Creative, digital, again, a massive strength, and that too, I think, will be very, very high. The way that I've tried to approach things since being elected, you may have seen, I had a couple of digital summits, and earlier this year I had a green summit. So why have I done that? It seems to me, whatever else happens in the economy in this century, digitalisation and decarbonisation are going to be the 2 big forces. So even if you don't work in those sectors of the economy, green and digital, all businesses, whatever your line of work, will in the end have to be zero carbon and fully digital. So they're going to be both important sectors in and of themselves, but they're going to be the kind of forces that cut right across the economy. And my view is that Greater Manchester needs to be in a leadership position on both of those things if it's to be in the strongest position when it comes to economic competitiveness in the rest of this century. So let me make it specific for you so that you kind of see where I'm going, and this is where it might have implications for the college. I'm proposing that Greater Manchester goes ahead of the rest of the UK when it comes to carbon neutrality. So what I've said is we should aim to be zero carbon here by at least 2040, possibly earlier, because actually that's what the international evidence says is the timetable you need to be on if you're to hit the Paris Agreement. Now, sometimes when people think about the environment, they just see it as a burden. I think it's a big opportunity, because if we use devolution to go early, to be the leader, as we were at the first industrial revolution, why can't we be the leader again in this coming industrial revolution? If you think about what that means in practice, to achieve it, it will mean that I have to set with the leaders a goal for zero carbon homes in the Greater Manchester Spatial Framework. So it is actually coming forward quite soon. I can confirm that. What we're looking at is a date by which we say that all new homes in Greater Manchester being built have to be zero carbon. Now, we would be the first in the country to do that. But what's the point of doing that, as well as it being good for the environment? In my view, it creates an incentive for the industry to start thinking right, zero carbon building techniques, that's a new, we've got to get into that now. It will mean they start picking up the phone to the college saying, can you start putting courses on in solar and renewable and ground source heat pumps and all of that stuff. And then a generation of young people in Greater Manchester gets trained in those construction skills. And then they're in a position to take those skills to the rest of the country as they catch up. Do you see where my thinking goes? So that's what I'm trying to do. I identify the things that are going to be the things that everyone has to do, but get in there, be the leader, get in there first. And then I think we've got a chance of real success in the future.
Any more questions, Dom?
Oh, thanks.
Got a few more now.
It's great to hear you pledge around free passes for 16 to 18-year-olds, and I really believe that in opening up opportunities for young people, we need to look across the whole of Greater Manchester, not just at the separate boroughs. But once you get past that age of 18, someone who lives in North Rochdale or North Bury might have to, for example, get a bus, then a tram, then a train to access a construction job at, say, Manchester Airport, and that could cost up to, say, £15 a day, maybe more.
Yeah.
I'm really interested to hear what your vision is for a proper integrated transport solution that would be comparable to, say, the likes of Germany.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Transport is the thing that, how can I put it, causes me most grief, loses most sleep for me. 18 months in, I kind of had a sense of it before I took on the job, but I now know I just haven't got the levers to integrate in the way that you're rightly calling for. If you just look at it from where I sit, so I've got the roads, well that's the 10 councils, and then Highways England, and they don't connect particularly well. The rail, well, where do you start? I can shout all I like at them, but I still, in the end, Network Rail and the train, they decide what, and Mr. Grayling. Then the buses, well they're a law unto themselves because they're deregulated. Metrolink, well I believe that's the best bit of our transport system, and we run that, and I've got the chance to do something with that. So basically what you've got here is a number of modes of transport that have a separate line of governance, each of them, or no government at all when it comes to the buses. So how can I integrate those things, you know, in given where we are at the moment? So some of it, I'm afraid, is having to get the power to do it. So as part of the whole clean air drive, I am calling for a whole range of powers to begin to get control over this transport system. And then when you've got oversight over the whole thing, then you can start to integrate it to work better for people along the lines that you're saying. But that will be part of our ask when it comes to this clean air plan. We will say, yeah, we're prepared to go fast, but you need to give us, so I'll give you a few examples. I can't enforce the yellow box junctions in Greater Manchester. Probably most business people in the room saying, great, we don't want any parking any tickets for me. But to be honest, there's a serious point there. London can have red routes, civil enforcement of yellow box junctions. They can fine the utility companies if they overrun on roadworks, but we can't. So we can't manage our roads in the same way that they can. So I need those powers. Taxis. Any taxi registered anywhere in England can work anywhere. It's a deregulated system. Again, we can't control the number of taxis on our roads, nor the quality of the vehicles. We're asking for the ability to do that. Buses. Well, the Bus Services Act has gone through Parliament, but we're working with Liz and the other MPs to get an order through that allows us to use the powers in the Act. That's not gone through yet, so we're still waiting. But we're going to get powers to reform the buses. Trains. After this year we've been through, we're saying very clearly we want the north of England to have full control of the franchise, and we're getting some traction there. So we're building the case, but I'm just sort of sharing my pain with you because I can't do at the moment what I would want to do, but I'm trying to do what I can within the limited powers that I have. So to pick up your point about the cost of travel, I recognise that there may be people from this borough who want to work at the airport or at Media City, and Metrolink can be quite expensive. So we've just bought, it's a small thing in some ways, but we've just brought through an early bird fare, it's called, so people can travel for £1 before 7:30 in the morning, because we're trying to recognise that some people, maybe on early shifts, that would be a big thing for them and might encourage them to use public transport rather than the car. So we're trying to do what we can. On the young people thing, I am going to need the help of the colleges, because I don't necessarily have a budget just sitting there to pay for free bus passes for 16 to 18 year olds. But you know what, I'm determined to do it. I really am determined to do it. We've surveyed in Cross Greater Manchester year 10s, so how old are they now? I'm just going to get in the old money, that's 4th year, isn't it, in old money? So they're 15, aren't they? Yeah. And we asked them a question as part of a survey that we've developed. Do you have hope for your own future? And I promise you it's quite a sobering read if you to see it. The numbers of young people who reply negatively to that question is very, very scarily high. And I think you've got to do something about that. We cannot be a success in the future as an economy or even as a society if large numbers of young people are coming through secondary school with no hope for the future. You know, a whole range of issues fall out. So how do you do something about it? I was, and remember you used to talk to Liz about it when we were in Parliament. When EMA was taken away from young people who needed support, I think it was the cruelest of blows, because it was a lifeline to those young people who were just on that borderline, and it meant that they would have kind of lowered their ambitions rather than still aiming high. And this free bus pass is intended to give that back and actually send the message that the whole of Greater Manchester's for you, not just your borough, everywhere. You can go anywhere across this whole, and that's what the UCAS system is meant to send, the same message. This whole place is for you, and you know that's what this whole thing is. So it's taking a while, but I am determined to fund the bus pass, because I think post-Brexit it's crucial. If we're going to bring on the next generation, you really have to bring on the next generation. You have to recognise it's harder for them than it was for us, and put our money where our mouth is and do something to help them.
Julia, you had a question? Last question.
Hey, I'm Julia. I'm here at Hopwood College, so you're really welcome, Andy. It's great
Thank
to
you.
see you here. It's building on the transport question, and hopefully an easier question for you to answer. We've got the tram into Rochdale, and we've got a campus in Rochdale Town Centre, and I know there's some lobbying around bringing the tram to Middleton, which would be great.
Yep.
Feedback from our learners is around the prohibitive cost of the Metrolink, and how you can get into college and out of college, but also then be able to access around Greater Manchester itself. I know you talked about early bird about 7:30 in the morning, which some of our learners welcome 7:30 in the morning and get into college early, but just around how we can make it more accessible for them to be able to access the transport system and use that to get into college.
Yeah, no, that's a really fair question, Julia. I mean, just to be clear, I would like to bring Metrolink to Middleton, and I'd like to do it at the earliest opportunity. And the spatial framework will be coming soon, and I want to make sure that we are linking transport to potential development. The first one was way too silent on all of that. I think we need to be much clearer about where our transport priorities lie and what is the required transport if we're to deliver some of the growth that we want to see in certain parts of Greater Manchester. So Liz has made the case alongside the leader of the council. It's obviously I have my own sympathies, as you know, from what I admitted in my first job in life. It would have helped me a lot had there been a Metrolink to Middleton back in those days. So I'm sympathetic, and I would love to do that. It's just a case of can we get a funding package to stack up, but we're looking at that right now. Actually, we'll hopefully say more in due course. On the cost of travel more generally, I don't think we've done anything. If you go to other cities, a student travel option is just a given, isn't it, in terms of the public transport system, and ours is too patchy. I did bring through half-price bus tickets for 16 to 18 year olds. Some of them use them, some don't. We brought in half-price off-peak Metrolink. We weren't able to fund it for peak, but that would help, I guess, if we could do that. So what I want to get to is alongside the free bus pass is a much fairer offer for probably under 21s or certainly students, let's say. So yeah, that remains my ambition, as well as building out this successful Metrolink system so that more communities can benefit from it.
Okay, thank you, Andy.
Okay,
Thank you for your
no
time.
problem.
Can everyone show appreciation for Andy giving us this time?